Hello, welcome again to the Auroch Digital Friday stream session. Today we're joined by studio head Tomas Rawlings.
Hello.
Very exciting.
Yes, is that mainly because I can fire you?
Yeah, this better go very well. So today is a GameTheNews special. So GameTheNews is an initiative of Auroch Digital, basically focusing on kind of real world ideas, themes, narratives that are ongoing at the moment. So topics such as the war on drugs in Mexico, the ongoing conflict in Syria, which are two of the games that we're going to be playing today. And I use the term game quite kind of debatably there.
Well, not. I mean, I wouldn't say debate. So they're what we call news games, and they are deliberately short, playable experiences that they're there to make you think, maybe make you laugh, make you upset. You know, they are. If you think, let's take the example of a book.
Sure.
You know, the Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings. That's the novel. That's like the equivalent of a AAA game. You know. Mm-hmm. The World of Warcraft type thing. It's a huge enterprise that takes a lot of time to make. Yeah, by contrast, GameTheNews is a newspaper article. It's a short window into an aspect of the whole. It isn't the complete history of it. It isn't every angle. That's left for the history books. That's for later. So just as the written word can exist from a tweet up to an article, up to a novella, up to a novel, up to a trilogy.
Sure. So
and film can exist from a YouTube short, a little 5-second Vine loop, right up to a TV program of an hour, right up to a film of 3 hours, right up to a trilogy of films.
Sure.
Games can exist in very short playable forms, right through to the big AAA, and they're all games. They're all whatever you want to. I see them as all as games. They all have their own merits. They're all interesting. So what we were looking to do with news gaming is say, okay, we're gamers. Games are a natural way we understand the world around us.
Sure. Games
are a natural medium that we like. Why don't we use that medium to talk about serious topics? Now, immediately, there was a lot of people who were like, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, most of that was coming from established media.
Sure, we'll touch on that when we get around to Endgame Syria.
We'll touch on that a lot more. But that creates, to me, a really interesting debate. But as I'm a game designer by trade, as well as a player of a lot of games myself, so actually it's really natural for me to think about things in a systematic way, in a gamic way.
Yeah.
And so for me, this is how I would do it. This is my home turf. So yeah, games are a natural way of doing it. So and actually for us, the interesting thing is there's a kind of bleeding of what we've been doing with news gaming into our other areas. Mm-hmm. And I think that's about the authenticity of the subject. It's about doing the research to do with it. It's about trying to put into the game you're creating some, and this isn't suitable for every game, where's the reality in Tetris?
Sure.
It doesn't exist, but that's fine. But for some of the stuff we do, actually that real world stuff gives us a chance to add an extra layer of something either cool or interesting or fascinating. So that's why it really matters to me, and that segues nicely to
yes. Yeah. On that note, so for anyone who's been keeping up with what we've been up to at Auroch Digital, we have recently announced Dark Future Blood Red Stakes, which is an adaptation of a Games Workshop kind of classic board game from the late 80s, hence this wishlist on Steam today image that we've got here. And speaking of the kind of the interpretation of real world principles and kind of grounding what we do, with kind of real world kind of a basis in the kind of real world. We wanted, particularly with Dark Future, because it's based sort of in the future.
Yes. In actually the original was set in the future of 1995.
The distant future of 1995.
Nearly 21 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's actually an alternative reality. But you're absolutely right. The idea is it's a kind of near future, and that's one of the things that makes it fascinating and a little bit scary. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, if you've got a copy of Dark Future, go back to the rule book for that and read through some of the stuff they talked about for the future. And there's a scary amount of parallels. So, for example, they were talking about a kind of climate-ravaged world where it created all sorts of things. This is back in 1998 when it was still a relatively
1988.
It's still a relatively unknown concept. Whereas, we're going to be touching on this with Endgame Syria. There are people writing that a number of the conflicts we've seen recently, Syria being one, conflict in Darfur being another, they have their roots in climate instability, in failures of crops, in migrations and economic issues that are ultimately created through climate messing up agricultural stalwarts that have been around for a world, and so creating this instability.
Yeah.
So there's a weird prescience in that. The other thing you find in Dark Future is they created this concept of the gang cult. So this is not like a biker gang, but more so. They're a biker gang that go all in, that are so deeply rooted in what they do. They become almost religious.
It becomes who they are. It becomes their personification of them, and vice versa. The gang becomes them, and they become the gang.
And then the lack of a state that's offering any kind of law and order and any kind of civil society means they're free to indulge every whim in the remains of this hollowed out America, and so they become these gang cults. They become these crazy institutions. Now, where is it today? We can see a cult with weapons and equipment that has gone off on one that is beyond all what we might think of civilized norms, and we see it in Syria now with ISIS.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of scary prescience in Dark Future, which makes it a fascinating game and gives us a lot of interesting material. And so we've been working with in the early days of the narrative and the game design, we actually worked with some scientists who were experts in various fields, from the kind of the biology of the augmentation, cybernetics, who understood some interesting concepts there, and also what climate change, for example, might mean. What those original game designers from Games Workshop were thinking about. Now we've got a lot more knowledge. How can that be written and made so it's authentic within the game? And in fact, I think we share a link out to. We'll share it out later. We'll share a link out to the video of those scientists and myself and our games writing consultant James Swallow.
In fact, on that note, rather than sharing the link to it, we can actually show it now. We've got it here. So basically, this is the kind of
much more efficient. Wow.
Yeah.
You're going to be asking for a pay rise.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that kind of level of preparation. So basically, this is a kind of a sneak peek into the kind of research and the principles that will be featured in the game. So let's go ahead with that.
The WK11 News. This is Pam Sinclair.
Pull that back a little bit.
Good evening and welcome to WK11 News. This is Pam Sinclair coming at you live with a high-speed pursuit of armed and dangerous renegades.
Dark Future is a Games Workshop game that originally came out probably about 20 years ago. It's a car battling game where there are vehicles smashing into each other, unloading machine guns to each other, firing missiles at each other, and yet it's all happening simultaneously but turn-based.
Science fiction is based on the extrapolation of scientific principles, whether that might be physics, whether that might be how a warp drive engine works.
Though of course we do let our imaginations go a bit wild with this, we want to make sure there is sound science behind the ideas that develop in the game.
So when they originally created Dark Future back in the late 80s, climate change was a relatively new, almost science fiction-y idea. And then in discussions with one of the scientists today, we talked about, hey, what could the effects of climate change maybe be? And she actually made the really good point. Well, they already are.
I think climate change might have a big impact. I think sort of some of the genetic manipulation, but I think the real potential threat is through new infectious diseases arising.
We are using viruses at the moment as delivery mechanisms for gene therapies, which is really exciting for dealing with some really debilitating conditions. Yet that same technology can be used in laboratories to manufacture terrible bioweapons that could destroy entire races.
One of the areas that I'm interested in is synthetic biology. Until now, we have not been able to control the DNA that's passed on from one person to another, but we are now developing methods that would be able to change the DNA that's present.
Something that stems from a newspaper article or something in a scientific magazine, all of these things are a fodder for storytelling. There's a nihilistic element in all of us, I think, and kind of, that idea about some people liking to watch the world burn. And I think in science fiction, that gives us the opportunity to play with ideals of a negative future and to examine those without actually having to live through it.
We can't regulate or control everybody, so is there a fear that there is a rogue scientist out there somewhere that's taking it down the more dark routes?
We could end up in some kind of crazy post-apocalyptic world, which would be a lot of fun for a week or so, and then it would be kind of horrible.
What I liked about Dark Future is we all have this sense that the future could be much bleaker than it is now, that things maybe are falling apart, and Dark Future really capitalises on that and grabs it and runs with it, drives with it.
The Dark Future IP has a lot of really interesting themes in it. There's cool kind of 80s cyberpunk stuff in there. There's some interesting weird ideas about parallel universes, some almost supernatural elements as well. And I think all of that combines to make it a very unique, very interesting arena in which to tell stories.
That tension of what could be and what we hope will never be is where the Dark Future lives.
So that was it was kind of just a little look into the kind of the research that grounds the quite fantastical elements of that game in a scientific sort of a scientific basis. Hence the scientists that have come in, basically they've offered insights so that we don't just run away too much with it and we end up in the realm of kind of impossibility. Obviously the Dark Future page is live now on Steam, so if you search Dark Future on Steam, and I will pop the link in the chat in just a moment, but that's all we're going to talk about today with Dark Future. Today is obviously a Game the News special. So today we're going to be talking, we're going to go NarcoGuerra first?
Yes.
Okay, let's go with that.
Right, so NarcoGuerra is drug wars, is what it translates as, and this was actually this is one of the later games we made with Game the News, and I wanted to correct, this is actually one of the bigger games we did with Game the News. So I mentioned before that news games are these quite short playable experiences, so the one you'll see after this, Endgame Syria by contrast, was made in 2 weeks. This was actually took a couple of months to make, so this was a slightly bigger enterprise, and we were experimenting with the form quite a bit. So this is a game set in Mexico, so let's get stuck in. So I should play hard, really. But, I don't want to lose live on the camera.
Yeah.
That would be embarrassing, especially as I design the game. Which happens, I have to say, as a game designer, I'm not very good at playing games, and I have to lose. People assume, you go around their house and they go, "You must be brilliant at games, because you design." I'm really not. And so there's been a lot of embarrassing moments when they give me their game and then I die. Right, so I think you've got a question in chat.
We do indeed. So, what is this? Mad Max, asked by Testclaw. It's certainly in a similar kind of realm to Mad Max. I guess because the original Mad Max came out in 1980, I think, or something like that. And so I think this was quite the kind of the idea of a post-apocalyptic, and rather than it being kind of in a city and it all society crumbling in that sense, it was more kind of desolate wasteland, and particularly with the kind of the secondary theme of it all being based around vehicular combat and that sort of thing.
I think you if you saw one, you would see there are inspirational elements between both of them. So if you like Mad Max, you're going to like it, basically, and I do like Mad Max and I do like Dark Future. So but yeah, I mean, what I would recommend if you're interested in that is we'll post the link in later to a load of images from the original, which really shows some of the influences they were drawing from.
Absolutely.
I see it as that kind of Mad Max-esque world meets William Gibson's Neuromancer. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because there's definitely more so in Dark Future compared to something like Mad Max, for example. There's a real kind of cyberpunk element.
There's a strong cyberpunk element. It's not as far out there as down the destruction of civilization of Mad Max, and it's its own thing. That's the key thing that I really like about it, is it really is its own thing. It draws from a lot of inspirations, but it's definitely its own world.
Definitely.
Right, I'm going to jump. Thanks for the question. I'm going to jump back onto this one now. And so here you can see my first day promoted to chief police in Mexico, and I'm now tasked with trying to find the war on drugs.
So this is basically kind of Risk applied to the war on drugs, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you will see that the game map that we're looking at, when I click on that, you'll see is very much like the Risk game board. Well, not just Risk. If you play games like Axis and Allies, a whole host of other strategy games, what you're seeing will feel, familiar-ish to you. What you can see here is the different bits of territory are controlled by different cartels with the different colours. Where they're blue, that's because I, as the police, I control that territory. And my aim is obviously to get rid of all the cartels by moving into their territory and engaging them.
So these green and red, they're two different factions?
Yeah, they're different cartels basically.
Right.
So, and again, as a classic strategy game, the more successful I am, the more money I can request from the government, the more I can spend to play it. Some of the territories, like this one here, for example, give you bonuses when you're attacking from it. Others give you bonuses when you're defending from it. Others give you bonuses in terms of resources. Now, bear in mind that it's been a while since I've played this, so right, support players, play your units, regions, use buttons right, recruit right. Okay, so I'm going to recruit. So I'm going to start my phase by recruiting some people. So I'm actually going to try and link up the 2 bits of territory that I've got, and I want to attack out from here. This is good territory because it gives me more income. So I'm going to recruit some units into there, and I'm going to bolster myself down here a little bit to try and put people off from attacking me there.
Nice.
I'm not going to spend everything. This is a solid defensive one, so I'll bolster that, so I've kind of got a hook in the middle.
Nice, yeah. And do the enemy factions, do they oppose each other, kind of mirroring the war on drugs? Because it's not just kind of the cartels as a whole versus the police in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, they will ebb and flow around you as you go. Mm-hmm. So the other things I can do is I can allocate some of my money to try and reducing police corruption, and I can also allocate some of my money to gathering intelligence on there. So at the moment, I'm not really going to do that. I'm not ready to do that either yet. So I've done my basic stuff. So it's the attack phase now. So I've done my resource phase. So as I say, I'm going to. They've bolstered themselves there a little bit. I'm going to see if I can take some territory there. So I move in attack. You can see my units face off against their units, and we send units into battle until eventually
victory was yours. So you've captured Coahuila and have seized 260k in the raid. Nice.
Yeah. So basically, I've taken some territory now, and now I can move some troops into that, move some police into that territory, and I can hold it. Now, I'm using a lot of interchangeable military and policing terms, and that's because of the war on drugs in Mexico, in Colombia, and other places in South America. The police units and military units are often almost one of one. They're very, very. The drug wars are very violent. A lot of people die, and it's a difficult situation. It's part of the reason why it's an interesting, and I use that in the correct term, as in it's got a lot of points that make it interesting. I wouldn't like to have to live through it, but it's very interesting to understand what's going on.
Absolutely. And was this met with any kind of controversy, or perhaps did anyone was anyone kind of perturbed by making a game out of this? Because I guess if you haven't played it and you don't know the kind of maybe the research that's gone into it, or your kind of your stance on the matter, they might see it as trivializing some, or
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I mean, when we released the game, we did get a lot of media interest on it, and that definitely came up. So we ended up having a conversation with somebody who, a very brief email conversation with somebody senior, sort of ambassadorial level, who was like, what is this? Like, how dare you trivialise this serious thing?
Mm-hmm.
And in reply, I sent him to a link to another game that featured the war on drugs, but it was like a game where you go around shooting things.
Sure.
And it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want us to do this serious stuff where we did our research? And for this game, we spoke to one of the foremost experts in drug policy in the planet. Mm-hmm. Or do you want us to just use it as a quaint backdrop for shooting people in the head? So actually, I'm not saying you shouldn't do the other, but this is what we chose to do, and I think it's got merit. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I've ended that. I've ended that turn there. You can see the cartels fought each other, and they moved into my territory a little bit.
Yeah, so that central block that you've got there is now looking a little bit under-defended.
So I definitely want to I want to spend some of my money. Now I've got quite a lot of money at the moment. Because I started with quite a bit, so I'm actually going to bolster myself quite seriously. The more territory you've got, the more you get as per a classic game. So I'm going to do that.
And is the money kind of just for spending, if you know what I mean? Does it, or I mean, is there any kind of benefit to having lots of money in the bank? Other than just
not necessarily.
Or as a play style, would you recommend kind of you spend it as you get it?
Yeah, not necessarily within that. resources, so I can't spend my resources on that. So, cool. So we go again into the attack phase. Let's see if, like I say, I'm trying to link up the 2 bits of territory that I control. We definitely want to take this one out here because it's pretty weak. So I move police units in there,
Nice.
Successfully captured there, which is great. I'll move a couple of units in to secure what I've got. I'm going to go for this one here because this is a more powerful attack-based one. So if I control that territory, I can launch attacks from there much more successfully. Oh yeah, that was bad. Wait.
Nice.
Forces of justice. So you can see I worn them down. It's very attritional, a lot of combat there. Now, unfortunately, I'm left with quite weak, and that battle didn't go particularly great. Now, if you look down here in the corner, you'll see where I'm waving the mouse. You'll see kind of news events. Now, a lot of those are based, in fact, they're all based on real-world events that happens in the war on drugs in Mexico. So again, that's where this kind of authenticity that we were coming out, that we were talking about earlier, comes into it.
Sure.
So you can see now that the red cartel is becoming very powerful. In fact, I may be in trouble. There's a degree of corruption in my police units now. The street price is steadily going up, and actually my income's going up because I think overall I am controlling more territory at the moment. In the background, what happens is the politics of this is going on. So there's 2 different groups arriving. One group's basically proposing carry on this war on drugs. The other group's saying maybe we should try something different. Why don't we try legalization? So in the background to you trying to fight this war, the political battle's going on about what should happen. Mm-hmm. That will play a role, as we'll see later on. So,
yeah, that's kind of one of the most interesting narratives in the real world war on drugs, isn't it? The kind of the almost futility of it. There's some very staunch supporters of legalization because this is such a kind of violent and bloody war. It almost seems that it just makes total sense, doesn't it? I mean, do you have a stance on it personally?
And I think basically what we've been doing now, which the criminalisation of drugs, which we've been pursuing for 50 years, has completely failed. Drugs are more widely available, cheaper, and more accessible than they've ever been. So in actual fact, I'm not saying I know the exact shape that the solution is, but one thing I think you can see very clearly is what we're doing now doesn't work. So I'm going to spend a bit of money on corruption now, so I can reduce that percentage, you can see, by spending cash there. So that's dropped the corruption of police down, which plays a role in how effective they are in their jobs, and you'll see some other things as we go along.
Is that how effective they are in combat?
No, it's more that basically the police can get corrupted and you can lose units. The higher the percentage goes, the more units you can lose. Sure. And again, that's based on reality. We have seen in the war on drugs in various countries examples of police units fighting police units where both sides have been paid by different cartels to fight a proxy war against each other. Drug money is intensely corrupting. Money itself is corrupting. Drug money is all the more corrupting because the counter is accept our bribe or we'll murder you. It's very difficult, and that's part of the problem with it. So you can see there, I've spent some money. I use some intelligence. So sometimes you don't know what the strength of an area is. You can spend money on intelligence to reveal that. So we've gone back through another phase. The cartels. You can see that the cartels themselves, the green cartels, taking a bit of a beating. One of the interesting things is that early on we talked about having names for the cartels, and then realised that their constant shifting, they appear and disappear, sort of meant that it wasn't that it wasn't valid. It wasn't that they weren't the key part of the story. I think that they were always a temporary structure that existed for the people who ran it to make money.
Sure.
So giving them a name didn't really help you with your understanding. It fixed you at a point in time, and that didn't help. So we deliberately
really
wanted
accurately reflect
we deliberately wanted them to feel like not these faceless entities, but these ephemeral entities that came and went. All corruptions going up, but I think I've spent all my cash on that. I think I can afford. No, it's a really quite. I really do need to get rid of that corruption. That's going to create a problem. If you leave the corruption to go unchecked, it's a constant drain on your resources. But if you leave it to go unchecked, then eventually you're going to be in trouble. Right, let's knock this out. Let's do some. I'm going to do some offensives. So we're back into the attack phase now. Okay. So remember, the first attack is free, but attacks after that you need to hang on to money to do. So yeah, well, as is the case, you can't just mount offensive. If you move police, you pay overtime, you pay medical bills, you pay funeral costs, all these sort of things. It's cheaper to just keep your units occupying territory. It's expensive to move police units into other territories, and it's expensive to do these things. So you kind of need to make money. So we did make some money doing that, which we can spend next time round seizing territory. I mean, this Green Cartel, they're recruiting heavily now. They're splitting their forces around. So you can see there, our income's sort of...
Yeah, it's slowly building. I think it was 1,015 last turn. So yeah, it's building up slowly, but the...
We are, I mean, this Green Cartel, I thought they were on the losing, but they're not. They're
clearly that unknown little corner down in the bottom right is...
Let's see what that is. They're quite weak there. They're pretty weak there. So if I can take... Okay, so let's develop a strategy. Do I have enough to... So I'm going to hold back a little bit of money to do some extra attack, some extra manoeuvres. So right, this is a bit of a gamble because I'm going to try and take here, and then I can move against their weaker rear. But it depends on...
But they've got the...
Now it's a good opening bout.
Nice.
No. Yay. Come on. 4. Yay.
So why is it that you... is it because you are the attacking unit that you... the attacking faction that you go 3 against 2 in these?
Yes, if you're attacking, you can move more units at once, so the odds are slightly stacked in your favour, but of course the defenders just don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You have to win, otherwise you don't get to see. So I have managed to do that, but at
quite
some
heavy losses.
cost, and not enough now really to mount much of an attack beyond that. In fact, if I do, I'm going to be really weak, so I'm going to hope that the cartel doesn't go for me. If you don't attack the cartel, the AI will be quite passive towards you. So you notice the red haven't really done much because I haven't been attacking them, I've been focused on the green.
Right.
The cartel are there to make money, and the cartel AI. Right, so now it's election time, and I can actually put my support behind a different candidate.
This Arturo Herrera, he looks quite familiar.
Yes. Yes, we needed a base image, so I ended up with a dreadful haircut. So actually, I'm going to back Miguel. I'm actually going to pledge Miguel some money. No, you can do neither, but I think something needs to be done. So
between the two factions there, you've opted for the one which is to keep fighting the...
No, I've opted for the one. I'm losing, so I kind of need to do something.
Sure.
Now I've got a more effective attack from here. Really am on the defensive. Let's just see if we can take a little bit of territory. No, it's not going to be a good turn, this one. I was kind of tempted to try and take there, but I mean they've got much more.
What does the symbol there represent?
Well, it means I get +1 on the attack roll. The people, it means you get more. I think you get an extra resource.
For holding this at the start of a support
I did have at one point, even though I've got a plus on the attack again.
The operation is
complete disaster. Yeah. So the cartel, really, the Green Cartel should The cartels are sensing weakness. They see that I'm pretty weak. They're moving in. Yeah, this is, like I said, I did say before we came in, I'm not necessarily good at it, but they have surrounded me and.
It's another Auroch / GameTheNews project where we've just made it devilishly difficult.
Yeah. So you can see there in the corruption, I've lost police units. I'm getting the income, but the drug price is
falling. I think it was more than that last time.
The price is going up, so that's something. Now, well, the drug price is falling because the cartels are easier to get stuff. So the results are in. The tough on the war on drugs is the winner, and actually that means next term they're going to give you more resources. So you get +120 attack. So let's see if we can salvage something out of here. I probably can't, but let's. I think I'm in trouble in my job. So I get +1 on the attack. So
good start.
It was a good start.
Look at that.
So, excellent.
Boom.
Right, luck was with me that time, successfully.
Nice.
So now I'm going to pour my units into there, and then I'm going to use that as the basis to attack next. So, come on, cartel, do your worst, which they will. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, corruption is bad. I'm losing units. So even as I buy units, they basically get turned. They defect. They become so corrupt I can't use them. So effectively, I have to disband them.
Sure.
Even though I took this territory now, I just don't have the resources really to do much else. So I'd be better off just holding on to what I've got. But, you know what? I'm not going to attack because that's how I play this. So let's take this one here where I'll get more. So I've gotten a bonus from attacking from there. It gives me a resource bonus if I get it, and it's not as well defended as the other territories. So there. Again, notice the red cartel are pretty much leaving me alone.
Mm-hmm. And that's
I'm not
because
touching them.
you're
I
not
mean, they
really-
are attacking me a bit, but I'm weak back there. They could have just wiped it.
Mhm.
If you don't attack them, they won't attack you. You know, I'd say they're businesses. Their job is to make money. If you, as the police, leave them alone,
Yeah.
you let them get on with the thing. You just don't
Sure,
control
sure.
much. You don't basically see them the victory.
Yeah, I
You
guess,
don't
and I
know
guess
them.
that again comes back to it being based in the real world rather than it being just in a sort of traditional game. At the end, the objective is to wipe out the enemy in most cases, rather than it being a sort of amicable, not amicable, but a relationship where if you don't bother me, I won't bother you. Kind of thing.
Yeah, look at that, hammered. The corruption is rife. Yeah, I'm really not going to get anywhere on this one. I'll have to get another time. Let's suicidally launch myself because I really ought to deal with the corruption because I had a few lucky bouts like that. Bad. Like that.
So you've got the. No, neither of you have a bonus to attack or defense in this case.
But I had more units, so I was thinking that I would win. But I'm really not going to.
The operations failed, and that's not looking good. Which I suppose again kind of mirrors the
Yeah. I mean,
the kind of futility of.
Yeah, I mean, this is what in a way this game is about, and because I've done much worse. So the US Special Forces, they've been sent to help out because things are going bad. So if I attack from those territories, so this territory here, if I attack from there, I get a bonus this turn.
So it's that one there, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm going to pump what little resources I've got left into a near suicidal attack from there. But this one's worth a lot of money. The tax revenue from there is worth it, but again, right, I think the cartel are on the brink of rendering policing and the anti-drug policing completely ineffective. So again, they're
This is the way of functioning from
if
the
I,
force of payments to
so the government's saying if I attack the red cartel, I gain a reward of quite a serious amount of cash.
Right.
Yeah, let's spend a little bit of money revealing. Wait, I can't attack this. No point. Okay, let's. I want to attack the red. I'll get my
used to
first-
the
Yeah, what's the intel?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, let's pour everything into there. Not that I have much. Let's fingers crossed and hope I can do something. So, last ditch attempt to get some money from the government by proving that I can do something. Oh, come on now. You wish me luck.
This would be a hell of a comeback.
Yeah, if it manages it. Yes!
Nice.
Fantastic. Right. So
you
victory, so I should hopefully be rewarded with, and I see some money from them, so I should be rewarded with, but the red cartel really didn't like that.
No, see, they didn't like that. So
We've got a big wedge there. So
you've
50-50 now. I'm going to back Miguel again.
Okay, so this is basically so you pledge your support and this. What? So what are these two things represent?
These two
So-
things. Well, do you want the government to be tough on it? And you've seen if the tough on it government win, they give you some bonuses. Would you want the government who think the militaristic approach is not working out?
Mhm.
So in a way, you're being asked to make a decision that in the short term, as a game player, is not beneficial to you.
Right.
So why would you do that? And that becomes a crucial thing. So I'm actually going to pour. I just don't have the resources.
I think
do I?
you dribble rather than pour.
I thought I'd have more to do. I can't do anything. I'm not going to attack anyone. But they're sensing weakness.
Yep. So at this point, police
Right.
receive one to attack, which is
Yeah.
kind of at this point you've got
'cause
two
the
units
tough
left.
one, yeah, drugs. I'm probably contributing to his ongoing victories in the elections because he's going, look, we're losing. And that's my bad strategy choices there. I think I'm just going to have to accrue some money. Oh, you see that unit there, which was mine, is now become a new cartel. Basically, my police have defected and formed a cartel. And again, we've seen this in the drug wars. We have seen cartels emerge out of defecting special forces, for example, creating whole new cartels because the money in there is such that, way more than you'd ever earn as a public servant.
So much money involved that the fighting on the morally just side isn't viable.
If you've got Netflix, if you've watched that Narcos, the thing about
Escobar.
Yeah, Escobar, which is well worth it. I thoroughly recommend it. It just shows that they're delivering money in by the ton. The money involved is just insane. It's nuts. So there we go. There you go.
So game over. So that's kind of a demonstration of what NarcoGuerra is about. And again, it is a difficult game, and there is an element of kind of enforced futility about it because of the nature.
Not completely. You what's interesting is if you can succeed enough that the politics change, you'll see. Not to give it away, you'll see stuff different there. Sure. But like I say, a lot of the data on that, a lot of the news events are all based on real world events, and it's an enjoyable strategy game.
Sure.
So if you want to get that, we've stuck the link in there.
Yeah, so the link's in the chat, and that's free to play, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's only $1 on iOS and on. So you can get it on for your iPhone or for your Android device from there. So that's that one. And in fact, we have been thinking about maybe kickstarting up a revised version of that on Steam, maybe enhancing it, updating it with recent events, making it a bigger thing, adding more gameplay features to it. So that's something we're pondering at the moment. It'd be interesting if people play it to get their thoughts on it. Right, so that's Narco.
So that was NarcoGuerra. And like we say, that's available on iOS and Android at the moment. Now we are going to carry on with some other GameTheNews endeavours, and this is Endgame Syria, and this is about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, particularly in Syria. And you, as you can see here, it's an interactive exploration of the war in Syria. It's based on research from a wide range of sources. It's your role to guide the rebels in their struggle. And this was met with controversy, maybe not, but certainly controversy. I mean, it had a lot of media attention, and was actually originally banned from the App Store, wasn't it?
Yeah, they refused it, so they refused the submission of it, and it's still not on the App Store in its proper form, which is this one, although it is on the Google Play Store. And it's completely free. We don't charge for it. So there's no ad, there's no in-app purchases. There's no ads to download other games. Well, there's obviously links to our stuff from it, but there's nothing else in there. It's basically an exercise in us exploring news games, and so we created this game in 2 weeks. Bear in mind, back in 2012, so 4 years ago-ish. And in fact, when we were creating this game, there was the sense that this conflict would be over soon, and so when we created the game, and again I used a lot of real world research going into it, and if you see the more info page, you can see, if you click on the more info background, you can see how from there all the sources that I used to create this are in there. The game that was created was very attritional. It was actually quite hard to win, and as a result it's become really prescient. So this is a sort of card game. You are the rebels, you don't get a choice to be the other side. Lots of people ask, well, why can't you be the other side? Well, because I was trying to show a perspective. This came out of watching a discussion 4 years ago about people saying, should the West arm the rebels? And the pros and cons being discussed, and I thought, a game's actually a pretty good way to explain this. You can look at the pros and cons yourself.
Again, not a sort of you've given your definition for what a game is, and I completely agree. But a lot of people, when they hear game, think just for entertainment value. It's just a bit of fun, it kind of, it doesn't take itself too seriously. But that's what the kind of the overarching thought behind GameTheNews as an initiative wasn't it?
Yeah. No, is that we can do more, and I think the thing that for me I see about this is when you look at other mediums, so the written word, film, music, radio, spoken word, that they do comedy, they do serious, they do drama, they do sci-fi, they do all these different things, and no one bats an eyelid. When it comes to games, it seemed like there was this invisible line where we could do entertainment and funny and silly, but we couldn't do serious. And by serious, I mean we couldn't take on serious topics. We couldn't use our medium to discuss them. And I thought that was bullshit. Like, why? If there's a room where all the serious people are, and there are essayists and journalists and documentary makers and novelists and poets and songwriters, and they're all in there. And basically, if somebody who makes games wants to come in there saying, no, you're not allowed in here, and your medium's not serious. And I want to say, yeah, actually it can, and this game shows it can, it done. And in actual fact, while it was controversial coming out, the sort of thing we were doing now, there's lots of people doing, and I think we, us and other people doing these sort of things have shown that actually games are a variable, they are a flexible medium, and they can do the AAA zombie killing games, but they can also do this sort of stuff. They can walk and chew gum, and I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're seeing more and more of that, aren't you? Kind of with games, kind of like Papers, Please, and that sort of thing. It's examining real world issues without just making light of them. You can explore a really serious kind of topic, and it doesn't have to be just for entertainment value.
Yeah. So this game is a sort of card game. It's divided into political and military phases. You come into the conflict after the initial peaceful uprising against the Assad regime has been brutally put down, and a civil war has emerged out of it. And so your aim then is on the side here. You can see support. And your aim is, and that represents broadly support of society, financial support of state institutions. It's overall your broad resource base you've got to do anything.
Sure.
And your aim is to basically try and deprive the other side of support while ensuring you have some support. So here you can see as cards I get represented. These are fairly basic rebel units. Across each one, you've got their attack ability, their defense ability, and whether or not they can hit air-based units. And also this bottom set of icons tell you what the other costs of doing things are. I'll come to that a bit more as we go along. So what happens is each unit you deploy is matched against the counter unit. They combat with each other, we reach the end of the phase, and then you get a resultant change of support.
Right.
So now we're in the political phase, these two in parallel. So here I'm choosing to accept Saudi support, and I'm choosing to accept French support. Again, when playing the game, it's down to you. You could say, I don't want American support. You could say, I don't want Saudi support. I don't want any support. I want to do it without any support. Now, the other side, they are getting support. As you can see, they're getting Russian and Iranian support. So if you choose not to have support, you're definitely at a disadvantage. And then in between these, you get events which are all based on real-world events. Is what is this war costing us beyond that? And I think an important thing as well, and I'm highlighting the mouse over this in the top corner, you can also see the civilian casualties, and they depressingly grow as it goes along. Now,
I didn't realise that's what that was.
That's people dying. And again, those numbers are unfortunately turn out to be probably underestimates. So here, for example, is a unit. These are militants. These are Islamic militants. They are very potent at fighting. They are good, but they come with the bottom bit here. These other things. They come with a cost. Sure. They give you the thing is winning at any price worth anything. So I am going to choose to ally with and deploy some of them in this case, and others not. So you can see that they've had good success on the battlefield.
Sorry, just for clarity here. So the shield means that they kind of survive this conflict. The target means that
they're the winner, and the other side took the damage. So you can see there the latest rounds of the talks failed. Now there's ways you can end this. You can end with a peace settlement. You can end by destroying the other side, or you can end by your side becoming destroyed. So you're not necessarily about militarily winning, although given that there's a civil war raging, it's actually quite hard. Now I'm going to choose a negate, which negates the Russian arms, and I'm going to get some satellite support for this time, which gives me a little more, which reduces the enemy's resources, because I know a little of what's going on there. So again, we're still looking culture in there. So we can see. So I'm going to use street fighting as a tactic against the warplanes because they're just too powerful. Comms. So I'm going to neutralise their artillery with comms. I'm going to use a technical against So in fact, I will let the militants take that. And then the YPG, which is the Kurdish militia, I'll deploy there. The YPG have actually been on both sides and also neutral on it, and it shows some of the complexities of it. Now, the rebel side are not a coherent group, and you know the choices you make. If you eventually sue for peace, but you're not in a strong enough position, then that peace can be refused, or you can force the peace through against the wishes of other people in it. And that's one of the things we wanted to show in this, is that this is absolutely about the fractious nature of partly what the rebel coalition are trying to do and how they choose to deploy themselves, what goes on, and kind of shows that difficulty. So here you can see I'm very outclassed in air and tank stuff. So I've got international units here, which were people from all over the world, which started arriving to help out in the earlier days of the war. You still see that, although you see it coming in on the Kurdish side. Now there's an RPG unit here, so let's move them to take on the tank.
Nice. And are the available actions, which you obviously pull over into your turn, into your hand for this turn, are they affected by the support that you get?
Yes,
right.
Yes, absolutely. So if you accept different supports, then they will unlock, for want of a better term. Now, if I outmaneuver, in fact we're better off. Let's put that back there. Let's move that there. By manoeuvring the Iranian support, it's worth more to me, and then the Turkish support. Turkey's obviously been a big supporter of some of the rebel groups, and that's part of the complexity of the situation we see. Remember, this was made before so-called IS. This was made before Russia joined the actual conflict. They were just supplying equipment at this point. Again, this shows some of the stuff that we've got. So here's an assassination attempt. This is an incredibly powerful card, but again, you can see at the bottom there, it comes with costs. I may win the peace, but I can lose the war. So I'm going to neutralise Hezbollah with the comms.
And so you mentioned, sorry, about the different ways that you can win. One of which being you lose all your support. Is that this bar on the side here?
Yeah, this bar you see it's not just it costs you some support as well, but it's also costing you stability. And so winning the war in this case isn't enough. You have to win the war and win the peace. And that was so. Here you see there's a peace bid come up. Now we're coming towards the end of the screen, so let's try. So my support isn't massively high. It's a little bit below half. So I'm going to accept the peace offer. Now both sides in this case accepted. My support had been a bit lower. There's a probability there.
It is the fact that your support was just higher than theirs.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, because I was using a lot of militants and assassination techniques and other things like that, the damage caused in the process, that even though we ended up with an agreed peace, has resulted in the breakup of the country anyway. So I won the war and I've lost the peace, and then also the chaos that has been unleashed by that carries on from it. So it shows how difficult it is to do this, and this has been very prescient about how it works. This has been what we did with this has proven to be a reasonably, in fact, a very good approximation of how that conflict has played its way out. So again, I could try different tactics. I could not use militants. I could try and rely more on the support end. I could try and rely more on depriving the regime of support rather than conflicting them, being a bit more defensive in my play. Yeah. There's lots of different ways it can play out, but that shows it. And again, we didn't update this after 2013. I think was the last time we added some new cards into it. And it's one of the things I'd really like to get the capacity for us to kind of return to, but at the same time, it's hard. It's a hard game to design. It's not as hard as being in that war. It's a hard game to design in its difficult subject matter. I was very proud of what we achieved with this, and I wish actually that it had been. I wish what we thought in 2013 that the war would end then. Which it had. Otherwise, but sadly, tens of thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of internally displaced people 4 years later, and it's still grinding on, much as if we did another one there. And that really shows, that's Endgame Syria. Again, this is free on iOS. It's free to play off our website, HTML5 version. There isn't an iOS, free to play on Google Play. There isn't an iOS version of that, so you can't play that. But there is a thing called Endgame Eurasia.
Yeah, it takes the design of the game, the kind of principles, and applies it to a fictional conflict. Because basically Apple's hesitance to allow this onto the App Store was due to their kind of rules about you can't make a game about an ongoing conflict?
No,
Is it something to do with that?
you're not really allowed to make games where you talk about real world people or institutions, which can't be true because there's lots of Second World War games, and occasionally some of those have been, caught the ire of it. But it seems to be a little outdated rule. Basically, if you read the guideline, it says if you want to talk about religion, write a book. If you want to talk about sex, write a song. Don't do it in the form of an app or a game, which seems to me really not right. The games are, like I say, they're a powerful medium, and those of us who create games and play games should be allowed to create them about what we want, and those people who want to play those should be allowed to play them. I don't think it should be down to the adjudication. I mean, it's Apple's platform, so ultimately I don't get a say in what they do, but I think they should update those guidelines. I think they're long overdue, and in fact we've seen that. There was a game about the Gaza conflict that at first they refused and then they let through. So I hope that gives a sign. Maybe if we do a Kickstarter for Narco, maybe we should do a stretch goal that will resubmit Endgame Syria and see if it goes through this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, like like you say, it's an outdated rule in your opinion, and if were it updated to maybe kind of more accurately reflect the state of things at the moment, that might be something that they may take a little bit more seriously. So yeah, that's a question for another time. But
yes, so hopefully everybody's enjoyed that brief journey into news games. Like I say, check those out. One of them's free, one of them's $1, but we'd always welcome your feedback on them, and also on Dark Future and how the news gaming stuff is influencing what we're doing on there. We're always interested in your feedback. And thank you, Jake, for setting up.
No problem. No, thank you for joining us, Thomas. We'll next week we'll be going back to a more kind of traditional Auroch digital sort of format. So I think next week we've got more Last Days of Old Earth campaign. We'll be pushing on with that, which has been great fun so far. We will catch you next time. Obviously, you can check out GameTheNews.net, which has all of the info. We regularly update our blog there, talking about news games that we've maybe seen or that have not necessarily influenced us, but that maybe kind of get our inspirational creative juices flowing. Check that out, and obviously we get at us on twitter.com/Auroch Digital and twitter.com/GameTheNewsNet.
Yes.
And the same applies to the facebook.com/Auroch Digital, facebook.com/GameTheNewsNet. We will catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.